Helen Caldicott, Pediatrician. America for many years has had a first strike winnable nuclear war policy, and it has several components. One is that in stealth you have to be able to knock out the Soviet command and control center, which is in Moscow and elsewhere, without them knowing. So you have to knock out their satellites so they can't see your missiles coming. So America is very advanced now in anti-satellite warfare. And once you've knocked their satellites out, then you have extremely accurate missiles like the MX and the Trident missiles that can land right on the middle of their missile silos before they press their button. Anyway, they can't press their button because the command and control center has been destroyed. So then you end up hitting the missiles, killing the missiles, but if you miss a few and they get launched by error, then you've got your anti-ballistic missile system to knock out the few that got launched. So then you win the nuclear war. The fact that this almost certainly will create nuclear winter and the end of all life on Earth is irrelevant, and that's called collateral damage. So that's how you fight and win a thermonuclear war. It's the official policy of the Pentagon and the United States of America, and has been for many years. The Star Wars system is not a defensive system. It is part of the first strike winnable nuclear war system. Star Wars cannot and will not ever work. You can't hit a ballistic missile with a ballistic missile in space. It won't work. It's like hitting a bullet with a bullet. There are many ways to sabotage anyway the kill vehicle by putting decoys up, mylar balloons, having 10 bombs and 1 missile, the whole thing. All reputable scientists and physicists say that it won't work. But what it will do is create a massive new nuclear arms race, because as Russia sees America putting up anti-missile systems so that America can then fight and win its nuclear war, it says, okay, you're going to do that, we'll build thousands more weapons to overcome your ballistic missile system. And China says the same, and they're already starting to do it. So it will create a vertical proliferation of nuclear weapons, as well as other small countries that are non-nuclear at the moment are going to say, well, you're doing this, putting up anti-missiles, we'll build weapons too. So it creates a lateral nuclear arms race and a vertical proliferation of nuclear weapons. It is the most unstable, destabilising, frightening scenario that I have ever witnessed in my life. It's not for defence of the American people in any way. Why should 5% of the world's population be defended against nuclear war and everyone else die in a nuclear winter? National missile defence is a euphemism for Star Wars, and there are 5 layers of Star Wars. There's the lower layer, which is theatre missile defence, like if China launches a weapon towards Taiwan, a missile, America's given Taiwan missiles that can hit their missiles, and that's lower level Star Wars. And then there are 3 layers of the anti-ballistic missile system. A missile takes 30 minutes to go from launch to land, and it's got 3 phases: boost, transit phase through space, and terminal phase. The boost phase is 10 seconds. If they want to hit missiles in that first boost phase, then it will be orchestrated by a battle management computer, no human input, that can never be tested except in battle. And there may be 10 hydrogen bombs on that one missile, scattering 100 pounds of plutonium all over the place in the air, when 1 pound hypothetically could kill everyone on Earth with lung cancer. The transit phase needs to be hit by, they're called kill vehicles, but you can put 10 bombs on a missile or 20 bombs and mylar balloons and various decoys, and that will never work. And then the terminal phase is hitting the missile before it actually lands on its target, say America, and it may have 10 bombs in it and 100 pounds of plutonium. Now the next and final stage, the 5th layer, is the militarization of space. Anti-satellite weapons are integral to fighting and winning a nuclear war, knocking out the eyes and ears of Russia so they can't see your weapons coming. So already America's building anti-satellite weapons. They're also building laser beam weapons, fueled and powered by nuclear reactors, which will be orbiting the Earth. And one laser beam weapon could theoretically vaporize a city and, quotes, affect very many kills from space. Now, as we know that the anti-ballistic missile system can't knock out the enemy's missiles in space, what the Pentagon has in their back pocket are nuclear weapons. And they admit, when they're cornered, that actually what they will have is nuclear weapons as part of the Star Wars system, so we'll have orbiting hydrogen bombs. Space happens to be a global commons. It belongs to all the people of the world, not 5% of the world's population. The tragedy is most Americans don't even know this is happening in their name. There's an outer space treaty which prevents the weaponization of space, and there's a moon treaty preventing the weaponization of the moon and the colonization of the moon, and America wants to colonize the moon and mine it for rare minerals, and that's why America wants to dominate space. So there are 5 layers of Star Wars: theater ballistic missile defense, boost phase, transit phase, terminal phase, and the militarization of space, all of which is absolutely wicked. And as we speak, these weapons are being built mostly by Lockheed Martin, which is the biggest military corporation in the world, which runs the administration and much of the Congress, through the Heritage Foundation, the Centre for Security Policy, and many of Lockheed Martin's former employees are in the administration. September 11th provided the opportunity for Lockheed Martin, Boeing, TRW and Raytheon and those aficionados of Star Wars to really say to the American people, now we have to have missile defense and Star Wars, which is the antithesis of what should have happened, because no way could Star Wars have prevented those civilian planes armed with men with box cutters going into the World Trade Towers or the Pentagon. So it's just a stupid argument. But in the heat and terror of the moment, the American people they clung to straws. And they thought, oh my God, we've got to get this. And in the heat of the moment, the Congress then passed enormously expensive bills giving the Pentagon up to $400 billion almost to spend on Star Wars, new nuclear weapons, other weapons. Bush announced that he will violate the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty in June. It's the cornerstone of all arms control treaties. They all depend upon that, because if you allow countries to build anti-ballistic missile systems, then it encourages other countries to just create more and more and more missiles in a mad race towards the end of the world. That's why it's the cornerstone of all arms control treaties. Bush, in his ignorance, and let's face it, he's ignorant, he's orchestrated by Cheney, Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, Pearl and the like. He's announced they're going to violate the ABM Treaty. They've also announced they're going to violate the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and start blowing up bombs again, which will encourage other countries to build their own weapons and create another new nuclear arms race. The Non-Proliferation Treaty is meaningless now because, in fact, America is encouraging other countries to build nuclear weapons. Those people in other countries that know about the weaponization of space are absolutely aghast. And I'm reminded of going to an anti-nuclear weapons rally in Bonn during the Reagan era, and they had an image of Reagan on a horse. And it was just before actually Reagan got elected, and they couldn't believe that the American people would elect Reagan. Well, it's the same sense of disbelief. People can't believe that America is going to put weapons in space, including nuclear weapons. I mean, how dare they? How dare they? Who do they think they are? The US is under threat from a ballistic missile attack every second of every day. Russia's got 2,500 hydrogen bombs on hair trigger alert, which would take half an hour to hit America. On September 11th, America was on the highest state of alert before George Bush got to press the button DEFCON 2. And I don't know how long it stayed on DEFCON 2, but probably for several weeks, with planes circling in the air ready to go to Russia to drop the bombs. Similarly, America's got 2,500 nuclear weapons on hair trigger alert. The whole thing, exchange, would take about an hour, and that's the end of life on Earth. It could happen tonight. That's the danger that's never being addressed. And those weapons were not removed, even though the American people rose up and demanded they be removed and the Cold War ended. The axis of evil was just conjured out of nowhere. Who are they? Iraq has no nuclear weapons. As Scott Ritter, who was one of the inspectors, said, they know exactly that Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction, chemical, biological or nuclear, when they left a couple of years ago, and they haven't had time to build them. Iran, that's the other country of the axis of evil, they don't have nuclear weapons either. Instead of encouraging peace in the world and cooperation and conflict resolution in a world bristling with nuclear weapons, they're going in the opposite direction, heading rapidly towards annihilation. I mean, I tell you, I'm angry. I spent my life trying to stop this, and we got somewhere, and now they're going backwards. Theatre missile defence is just low-flying missiles that don't go out into space. They are ballistic missiles, but they don't go, they're in the atmosphere. They're like Scuds and Patriot missiles. But the technology for theatre missile defence is the same as for ballistic missile defence of intercontinental ballistic missiles, and for, you know, the nuclearization or weaponization of space. So it's all the same technology. It's just parts thereof. And it's dangerous because China is now being set up as the new Cold War enemy, and America is encircling China, arming countries like South Korea, Japan, it's getting into the Philippines now, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and they're circling China and prodding China to say, go, build more weapons so we can build more weapons. The Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing conservative, not think tank, advertising agency for the corporations, funded by Reader's Digest, Hertz Rent-A-Car, Holiday Inns, Coors Beer, Lockheed Martin and the like. It's an advertising agency for the corporations, mostly the weapons corporations. The Heritage Foundation populated, really, the administration, got them into power. They're ubiquitous on the media. Bright young things with an evil foundation putting out, you know, big government's bad for you, you're not allowed to have free health care, that's socialism. You're not allowed to have free education, that's socialism. You can't fix the bridges, the roads, no mass transit, you know, SUVs going at 15 miles to the gallon. Global warming's great, you know, ozone depletion's great. And we're going to steal all your money, because the one thing the GATT Accord allows is for countries to be weaponized. We had a massive revolution in the 80s. When I first started speaking in 78, everyone said better dead than red. I said, really? You'd rather be dead? They said yes. So then I'll drop a bomb on their heads and annihilate Boston. Concentric circles of destruction, vaporization out to 5 miles, dreadful burns out to 20 miles. Looking at the bomb, eyeballs melt. Firestorm of 3,000 square miles, one bomb. I said there are 2,500 bombs. Every city and town with a population of 10,000 people or more is targeted similarly. And they said, oh my God, nuclear war is bad for our health. And at the end of 5 years of talking, 80% of people opposed the nuclear arms race. That was the Second American Revolution. We helped to bring about the end of the Cold War. But you see, we haven't finished our work, because Clinton got in, who was really an inoperative president, who didn't eliminate nuclear weapons with a friend in Russia called Yeltsin. So now we have to revitalize ourselves, the churches, the synagogues, the physicians, the educators, the psychologists, the architects, the business people, and we have to finish our work and abolish nuclear weapons. Bush, in a way, is a catalyst. And I'll just finish by saying, in a dark time, the eye begins to see. Let's open our eyes. And I want to say one other thing that Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Let's not be blind. Let's open our eyes and let's work intensively, and we will abolish nuclear weapons. We are the physicians of the planet. The planet is in the intensive care unit, possibly terminally ill, but if we devote every minute of our waking and sleeping lives to saving it for our children, our grandchildren, and all other species on the planet, of course we can save it.